Dawn broke in pale ribbons of pink and gold across the swollen river, revealing a scene of unbridled fury. Winter's snowmelt, supercharged by days of relentless rain, had turned the once gentle stream into a roaring torrent. Massive waves curled and crashed over moss-covered boulders, uprooting young saplings and hurling driftwood like flotsam artillery. Where reeds had once swayed in lazy arcs, now only frenzied eddies and surging currents remained. On the river's far bank lay a crucial barrier, a stout beaver dam that backed up tranquil pools upstream, nursery grounds and feeding lagoons for countless creatures. But its heart had fractured. A jagged gap, nearly 10 feet wide, yawned at the dam's center. Through this breach, water funneled at blazing speed, carving a furrow through the mud banks and sending cascading sheets of muddy foam downstream. Marsh grasses lay flattened like spent candles, and heron nests perched on exposed roots shook in the current's wrath. Sliding along the riverbank on her belly, River Otter Opal felt the surge's tremor beneath her whiskers. Her sleek brown fur, normally slick with water, was stiff with cold spray as she climbed onto a fallen log. From this vantage, she surveyed the devastation. Tadpoles washed from their shallow pools, waterfowl struggling against the churn, and young beavers clinging to splintered timbers of their home. In Opal's amber eyes, fear sparked to determination. She knew that without swift action, the entire wetlands ecosystem, her playground and refuge, would be swept away. Gathering her family's swiftest swimmers and keenest divers, Opal would soon orchestrate an ingenious relay to salvage the dam, piece by piece. But first, she needed to understand the river's new fury, to gauge the breadth of the breach, and to ignite in her kin the resolve to rebuild against nature's fiercest onslaught. And so, as the swollen river thundered past, a lone otter's courage glimmered on the edge of disaster, ready to rally hope from the surging depths. As the sun inched higher, Opal slipped beneath the churning surface, her streamlined body cutting through the frothy currents. The water, once crystalline and placid, had been stained a roiling brown by sediment churned from upriver. With whiskers vibrating in the swirl, Opal navigated toward the dam's core, weaving between uprooted saplings and sawed-off stumps. She reached the breach's heart, where the floodwater gushed like liquid steel. Below the surface, massive logs, once interlocked in a watertight weave, now floated at odd angles, their barks stripped by violent force. Opal dove deeper, fins brushing against twisted brush piles and peeled chunks of clay. She counted each key element. 4 beaver-gnawed trunks dislodged, 2 anchor branches snapped in half, and the compacted mud wall collapsed into a muddy slurry. Emerging for air, Opal's chest heaved as she studied the scale of destruction. Her family's nursery pools lay empty beyond the dam, now drained by the relentless flow. But far from despair, Opal's eyes gleamed with purpose. She gathered a sturdy willow branch bobbing nearby, hefting it until its weight told her it could serve as a brace. Diving again, she snagged a moss-clad boulder from the riverbed, guiding it to a calmer eddy for inspection. Each foray revealed both challenge and opportunity. Tangled logs could be repurposed. Mud pockets sheltered behind submerged roots offered fresh packing material. Slender reeds could jam gaps. With a series of hopeful chirrups, Opal surfaced to rally her littermates. They must synchronize dives, ferrying these salvaged elements upriver, one piece at a time. An ingenious relay to stem the surge and reclaim the river's gentle flow. Under Opal's watchful eye, hope flowed as surely as the river itself. With willow branch and moss-clad boulders secured in a calm backwater, Opal surfaced and sent out a series of urgent chirps, her signal for the river crew. One by one, her siblings emerged from submerged hideouts. Finley, the speedy diver, Maris, the strong-jawed mover, and twin kits Lark and Luna, small but fearless. Each grasped in jaws or paws the tools Opal had scavenged and followed her downstream to the dam's breach. Maris was first at the breach, pushing the willow branch into the gap, evening its jagged edge. Opal and Finley dove beneath to clutch the boulder, nudging it into a shallow depression by the dam's base. Their synchronized lunges forced the stone firmly against the rushing current, creating a mini ebbing pocket where sediment could settle. As mud and pebbles gathered, the flow slowed ever so slightly, just enough for Lark and Luna to drag over slender saplings. Above, the torrent's roar gave way to a ragged gurgle in places. Every member of the river crew seized their role. Finley swiped at loose debris. Maris wedged thicker logs into the narrowing channel. Opal directed the operation with precise chirps and tail flicks. Though spray lashed their fur and the current threatened to uproot them, the otters pressed on, united in a daring, multi-tiered assault against nature's relentless surge. By day's end, the first span of the dam had been reborn, a testament to their ingenuity and teamwork amid the wild flood. As dawn deepened into morning gold, the first repaired logs held fast against the weakening current, creating a narrow ridge of calm water. Opal surveyed the progress with bright, determined eyes. She signaled her crew, Finley, Maris, Lark, and Luna, through a series of trilled whistles and head throws. Without hesitation, the otters sprang into a choreographed ballet of ingenuity. Finley, the swiftest swimmer, dove beneath the surface and reappeared almost instantly with a supple birch sapling clenched in her jaws. She paddled upstream against the remaining flow and, with a graceful up-arch of her body, slotted the sapling into the dam's core, interweaving it among the sturdy willow brace Opal had first placed. With precise nudges of her snout, she pressed the branch into position, its thorns snagging on submerged roots to lock it firm. Meanwhile, Maris hauled a heavy waterlogged log, its bark roughened by age, from upstream. With steady determination, she lunged into the breach, guiding the log into the narrowing gap. Finley darted underneath, pushing pebbles and clods of mud into the spaces left behind. Each time the log shifted, a miniature cascade of silt flowed into place, choking off part of the torrent's passage. On the riverbank, Lark and Luna orchestrated the supply line. They scurried along exposed stones, passing smaller twigs, stones, and clumps of fresh earth upstream to Maris and Finley. Luna, the smaller twin, squeezed into narrow crevices to jam soft mud into shifting joints, while Lark packed moss between logs to seal tiny leaks. Their nimble paws worked in concert with their elders' powerful dives, creating a seamless flow of materials. As hours passed, the breach narrowed further. The relentless roar of water gave way to gurgles, then gentle lapping. Opal climbed atop the partially restored dam, her whiskers dripping with spray, and let out a triumphant trill. In response, her crew paused their labors, paddled to her side, and joined in a jubilant chorus of chirps. In that moment, the river, once a menacing surge, began to reclaim its calm, feeding the wetlands upstream and safeguarding the floodplain beyond. By late afternoon, the Otter Brigade had restored the dam's full breadth. Water slowed to a steady trickle through the interlocked logs, and sediments settled into the newly formed pools. Exhausted but elated, Opal and her crew clambered onto the dam's crest, paws knotted with mud and hearts brimming with pride. They had not only stemmed the tide of destruction, but had woven their family's ingenuity into the very fabric of the river itself. By mid-afternoon, the river's roar had retreated to a steady gurgle as the repaired logs and packed mud held firm against the current. Opal perched on the dam's crest, her sleek body dripping with spray, and watched as the water behind them pooled into broad, tranquil basins. Rays of sunlight pierced the canopy of overhanging willows and alders, illuminating emerald patches of sedge and water lilies that drifted peacefully atop the newly still surface. Downstream, the wild flood was tamed into a gentler cascade, no longer threatening the marshy flats. Opal dove into the calm water, currents now swirling in lazy eddies, and surfaced with a triumphant chirrup. Her siblings emerged in turn, Finley with a mouthful of fresh cattail shoots, Maris with a fistful of riverbank earth, and the twins Lark and Luna carrying slender reeds. Together they danced across the dam's face, nudging liberated clumps of mud and vegetation back into place until every nook and cranny was sealed. The wetlands beyond the dam, once a barren churn of mud and uprooted roots, began to shimmer with signs of life. Tadpoles reappeared in the shallow shallows, darting among sprouting grasses. Dragonflies rebounded, their iridescent wings flashing above the water, and a pair of herons, returning from foraging upriver, waded into the quiet shallows in search of fish. As the sun slid low toward the horizon, painting the sky in molten gold, Opal rallied her crew for one final inspection. They circled the dam, tails held high, checking every joint and gap. Then, side by side atop their handiwork, they sounded a chorus of joyous trills, an otter anthem of victory that echoed through the reeds. In that golden light, the river's new rhythm flowed, not with destructive force, but with nurturing grace, sustaining the very heart of the wetlands. Opal and her family had not only stemmed a raging flood, but had woven their courage and creativity into the living tapestry of the river, turning back the tide and reclaiming a world reborn. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of fuchsia and amber, Opal and her river crew gathered atop the newly restored dam for a well-earned celebration. The once raging torrent had softened into a gentle murmur, its waters swirling in crystal pools teeming with life. Dragonflies darted above the sedge, their iridescent wings catching the last light, and herons stalked the reclaimed shallows, pulling silver fish from beneath the surface. Finley, cheeks still flushed from exertion, dove beneath the log ramp and emerged clutching a bundle of tender watercress. She surfaced with a triumphant chirrup, then nudged the greens toward Maris, who crunched them between strong jaws and shared bits with Luna and Lark. The kits, faces bright with delight, tumbled through the shallows, splashing one another as they explored the safe, shallow pools that had returned to their home. Opal padded to the dam's crest, where a rotting beaver stump, once the dam's anchor, still stood as a testament to generations of diligent engineering. She perched atop its splintered remains and sounded a clear, triumphant trill. In response, her family gathered around, paws pressed into the soft moss and mud. Their chorus of joyful calls rattled the reeds along the banks, drawing the curious gaze of nearby woodland creatures. A pair of otter pups from a neighboring clan paddled upstream to join the revelry, and a red-tailed hawk wheeled overhead, its distant cry a salute to their triumph. As twilight deepened, the otters moved inland beneath a grove of aging cottonwoods whose broad leaves whispered in the evening breeze. Here, they feasted on the river's bounty. Plump crayfish snapped between agile paws, and smooth river stones bore the remnants of mussels expertly pried open by Maris's powerful teeth. The kits practiced diving in the shallows, their small bodies weaving beneath floating logs, while Opal shared stories of the day's feats, how each pup's courage and each otter's strength had joined in a seamless relay to save their world. Maris settled against Opal's flank, whiskers brushing her side, as fireflies emerged in golden flutters around them. In the soft hum of nighttime insects and the susurrus of returning waters, the otter family felt a profound harmony restored. They had not only rebuilt a beaver dam, but had forged an unbreakable bond of teamwork beneath the forest's watchful eyes. And as the stars glimmered overhead, Opal knew this night's celebration would ripple through river lore for generations, an enduring testament to what a determined family can achieve when they turn the tide together. The following dawn arrived soft and silver, the river's surface a mirror reflecting wavering reeds and morning mist. Opal rose from her slumber in a bed of woven grasses at the dam's edge, the scent of damp earth and fresh sprouts filling her nostrils. Around her, the river crew stirred. Finley yawned luxuriously. Maris stretched each sinewy limb, and twin kits Lark and Luna tumbled playfully through shin-deep pools that now brimmed with clear, life-sustaining water. Gathering on the dam's crest, Opal raised her head and delivered a low, triumphant trill, an invitation to reflection. One by one, each otter recounted their role: Finley's swift retrievals, Maris's powerful placements, Lark's deft jamming, and Luna's masterful packing of sediment. Opal then demonstrated the finer points of structural harmony: how to interlock logs at opposing angles for extra strength, the art of channeling sediment-laden water into nourishing marshland, and the secret of using living plants, like willow and reed, to reinforce fresh dam walls as the seasons changed. Beneath the dappled canopy of overhanging willows, younger otters gathered around Opal in rapt attention, their eyes bright with curiosity. She guided their paws to test each repaired seam, showing them how a single tuft of moss could seal a newborn leak, and how a sturdy branch could be angled to deflect the harshest currents. Each demonstration wove practical skill with a deeper lesson: that the river's strength lay not in its power to destroy, but in its capacity to nourish when guided by intelligent care. As morning sun filtered through leaves, Opal led her family downstream to inspect newly restored wetlands. There, she showed them the resurgence of frog spawn tucked among sedge roots, the blooms of marsh orchids unfurling at water's edge, and the shimmering scales of minnows darting beneath lily pads. These living signs bore witness to the otter's labor, a testament that a family's united effort could transform devastation into abundance. Finally, Opal and her crew paddled to a grassy embankment where dragonflies hovered in lazy swarms. She took a moment to inhale deeply, letting the river's gentle melody fill her being. Then, turning to the youngsters, she offered a parting truth in her softest chirp. Whenever the water rises, remember that your howl, your work, can guide it to harmony. Together, you hold the power to heal the flow and keep the river singing. And with that, the river otters dispersed into the restored wetlands, each carrying forward the wisdom of their great relay, an enduring legacy beneath the rippled surface of the water they had so heroically reclaimed.